In this video, I'm going to show you how to add animation to any image. In this example, we're going to use this character and we're going to animate it. Let's watch the video and then we'll come back and I'll explain how I did it.
I thought that the dryer was shrinking my clothes, but in the end, it turns out it was my fridge. My friends tell me I smoke too much weed. My answer to that: can you blame me?
So there you have it. Now I'm going to show you the different things that I animated. First, I did the dreadlocks. Then I animated the eyes. Then I animated the medical marijuana. I added some smoke to his joint. And then finally, I added a 3D mouth so he could speak. So let's get into it and I'll show you how I did each one of these. First, I started off by bringing the character onto the stage. Next thing I did was to duplicate the character. Once I duplicated the character, I needed to add the region where I want to animate. So this would be the dreadlocks. So I used the pen tool to trace the area where the dreadlocks are going to be moving. And once I have it all traced, I'm going to go in now and do some refinement. And now that that's done, I'm going to remove the blue line, the stroke, and I'm going to make the fill black. And you'll see I do that anytime I use the pen tool for doing any kind of masking or track matting. We stretch out the timeline of the path to be the full length to match the character. And now we're going to track mat it to the new path that we just created. And once that's done, you don't really see much happening here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add the wave components to the character. And right away you can see that the dreadlocks have taken on a little bit of shape. So now it's going to be just a matter of adjusting the wavelength. So I put it at 100%. The height, I'm going to bring that down a little bit because we want a little bit of movement, but not a lot. And we're going to adjust the speed as well. Because like I said, we want it to match his actions. We don't want it to be too wavy. The other thing we're going to do too is we're going to adjust the mask that we're using. And we're going to do that by adjusting the size. And we're going to add a feathered effect so that we don't see any harsh lines. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to animate the eyes. So you can see here, I already took a screenshot of the eyeball. And all I really want is just the pupil section. So I bring that onto my stage. I'm going to resize it a little bit. And once it's on the stage, I'm going to make it the full length of my scene. Now I'm going to bring in a circle so that I can mask just the pupil section. I don't need the white. We get that just about the right size. There we go. We'll zoom in a little bit just so we can be more accurate. Stretch it out. And once again, I make it black because I'm going to be using it for masking. So I grab the two of them, I right click, and I say mask. So now all you can see is the pupil. I take that now and I'm going to resize it and I'm going to drag it over the existing left pupil. Just zoom in here and adjust the size so that it matches the existing pupil. Okay, and once that's done, now we're going to duplicate it so we can make the right pupil. And you'll see here that I'm not putting it over the other pupil because this character image, the pupils weren't matched correctly. And so I want to make sure that when I make the eyeballs move, that everything stays within the white area. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new white section of the eyeball myself because I want to cover up the existing eyeball so you can't see it. So once again, I'm using my pen tool and I'm going to trace it out so that it matches the whole white section. And once that's done, I'm now going to remove the stroke, the blue line, and I'm going to make the inner part white. And I'm going to use the color selection tool so I can make it approximately the same color as what we have. I take the opacity up to 100%. And so basically now what we've done is we just covered the existing eye. We're going to stretch this out to the full length of the scene. We're going to duplicate it and take it to the other eyeball. And I'm going to flip it around. So I'm going to do that by going to the properties and clicking on the flip button. Okay, now both eyes not exactly the same, so I'm going to have to adjust this one myself. There we go. So now we've got the two eyeball whites done. I'm going to group them together. Okay, and now I'm going to move the pupils above the eyes. There we go. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, I'm going to feather the eye whites so they don't look too harsh. And this way it'll blend into the image, the existing image that's there already. So I just drag the feather tool on and I'm adjust this to about 7%. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to drag the feather tool onto that one. Oh, we'll try that again. We did the same one twice. So we're going to go in and we're going to try this, the other one again. Grab the feather tool, drag it onto the eye white. And we're going to bring that one up to 7% as well. So now they have softer edges. And there you go. Now you can see the eye whites are in place. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to select the eyes. And I'm going to move this one a little bit because I found it was out a little bit too far. I didn't like where it was. So now the character is looking directly at us. Now I'm going to do something called batch animations. So basically what you need to do is you can add this to any group that you have. So I have this group here for the eye pupils. And what I'm going to do is I've made it so that it can go left, right 4% and up, down a couple of percent. And as you're going to see, I actually did that on the wrong one. So I'm going to actually go back and do it to the right one this time. Was the eye whites were moving instead of the pupils. So I go in, I set the left, right to 4%, the up top to 2%. Now watch what happens when I click on this. The eyeballs are like all over the place. They're not moving together. And I left this in on purpose so I could show you how to fix it. What you want to do here is you want to group the two of them together. So you're going to have a group within a group. So you're going to have a nested group. So now what happens is your batch animations will work on the group, but the inner ones will stay together. And there you can see that the eyeballs are moving left and right together. I want to give them a little bit more movement and maybe not make them move quite as fast as they were moving. 80% is too much. So we're going to bring that down a little bit and test it out. And there you go. So now the eyeballs are moving left and right, and they're moving up and down a tiny bit. You really can't see it, but we're going to go in and we're going to adjust it a little bit more. So I'm going to bring this up to, let's say, 7. And we'll bring the top to 4. And we'll see how that looks. There you go. See, now he's looking left and right. And there's a tiny bit of up and down movement to try to make it look as natural as possible. And I'm going to slow this down a little bit so he's not going back and forth too quickly. And try it out one more time. Okay, so now we're going to work on making the joint that's in his mouth. So I do this by using the pen tool. And once again, I'm going to get rid of the line, the stroke, and I'm going to make the inner part white. So I'm going to double click on it here so we can adjust the shape. There we go. That's not bad. I'm going to make the front of it a little bit round. Now I'm going to add in a circle to the tip to make the embers. And we're going to reduce the sound size down a little bit so that we can work with it. And we're going to shape it correctly. Okay, now once we've done that, we're actually going to use this gradient here. And we're going to make the center red and the outer edges more of an orange. So it looks more like an ember. I'm just going to shape it a little bit. And now what we're going to do is we're going to bring the two of them out to the full length of the scene. So that'll be in his mouth the whole time. And I want to adjust the color of the white section. So again, I'm going to create a gradient effect. So click on it, select gradient. This one I'm doing the linear gradient rather than the radial gradient. and I adjust my points where I want the colors to go. And all I want to do is just make the bottom section a little bit darker. So it gives it a little bit of a 3D shadow effect. And that's it. Now that that part's done, we're going to go in and we're going to add the smoke to his joint. So you just come into Create Studio, just type in smoke, and you're going to see that there's one here, Smoke 27. So I'm going to take Smoke 27 and drag it onto the scene. I want to readjust the size and position it so that it's coming from the end of his joint. And now you're going to see that the video of the smoke is pretty short. So what we're going to do is we're going to extend it out. So let's stretch this out a little bit first. And I'm going to go into the components. I'm going to drag clip speed out. Drop that on there. And now I'm going to adjust the speed down to 50%. So it's going to basically double it in length. So now we've got a smoke effect that's lasting about 8 seconds or so. Now we're going to duplicate it a few times. And we're going to drag it next to it to extend out the time. So now we're up around 30 some odd seconds. And put a couple of more on. So now we're up over 40 seconds or so. Now I want to show you something here, a little trick. Now I selected all of them and I did duplicate. It duplicates all of them more than one time. But the thing is that inside it keeps that same structure. And that's not really what I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this one here. And I'm going to group these first. Then once it's grouped, now I'm going to duplicate them. Now you'll see that when I go inside, they're all side by side rather than being that stepladder feel. Now I can go and I can duplicate these. And I'm duplicating like 7, 8 of them at a time instead of duplicating one at a time and having to stretch it out and so on. And that makes duplicating the smoke much easier. And for the last one, I'm just going to bring it back so it matches the length of my scene. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all of them and group them all together. And first, I'm just going to play it to see if I'm happy with the way it looks. So far we've got him. His dreadlocks are moving a little bit. His eyes are moving back and forth. And his joint is lit up and smoking. So here I'm going to take all of the smoking effect and I'm going to group it all together into one. And at this point, I'm going to go in and I'm going to start renaming some of these. So I'm going to make this one smoke. This one here, I'm going to call it joint. The next one, I'm going to call it eyes or pupils. This here, I'm going to call it eye whites. And by doing this, it helps you keep track, especially when you start having a lot of them on your stage. It'll help you to keep track of all of your stuff much more easily. So that way you don't accidentally grab the wrong item when you're trying to do something. So the next thing we're going to do is a 3D mouth. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring in one of the emoji characters. And I'm only going to bring in the emoji character because I don't need a body. All I need really is the mouth. So I'm going to bring in this emoji character here. It's a female. Again, doesn't matter if it's male or female. All you care about is the mouth. So once my emoji character comes in, I'm going to position it on the timeline correctly. And basically, it's going to be the full length of the timeline to match our scene length. And once that's done, I'm going to take the character and I'm going to rotate the head a little bit so that it matches our character that we have here. And basically, it just needs this to be stretched out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce her opacity. I'm going to put her over the character so I can try to match the mouth to the size that I need, more or less. Again, she won't be visible, so it doesn't matter really what she looks like. All we care about is her mouth. Let's bring the opacity back up to where it was. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to try to adjust the skin color to match our character that we're animating. I just grab some color from there. You can see our color changed. And we'll probably need to adjust this again later on, but for now, it's really not super important. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a mask around the existing character's mouth. So we're going to use the pen tool to create the path. Double click on it, select the path tool again. And now we're going to shape it around the existing mouth. We'll double click on here. So we can turn this from a corner point into a round point. So now we've got the basics of a mouth. We're going to, again, get rid of the stroke. We're going to make the fill black. And we're going to go in right away and we're going to feather the edges because we don't want those harsh edges there. There we go. So now we get some soft edges showing there. And now we're going to bring the character and position the character. Once we bring the mask all the way out. And bring her, we're going to position her underneath. So it's her mouth is underneath the mask. Now we're going to take her and we're going to track mat her to that path. And we're going to rename that to mouth path because when we go to select it from the track mat, so we can find it easily. Okay, and don't forget to select the alpha so that the mouth will show up. So now you can see that the only part we can see of the emoji is just the mouth. And now we're going to position the joint above the character in the mask so that it will show up correctly on the lip. I'm going to try readjusting the color of the emoji skin. Try to match ours a little bit better. And because the emoji has some shading, it doesn't always come out exactly the same. So you might have to go in and play with it a little bit to get it to come out closer to what you want. And we can get this closer, but I said for the sake of time, I'm going to leave it like this. I'm just going to adjust his joint a little bit so it looks like it's coming out of from underneath his lip there. I'm just adjusting the mask here a little bit. Now I need to take the joint out of the way, so I'm just dragging it over here to the right so I can play with the mask here a little bit more. So I don't select the joint again by accident. There we go. Just going to drag that back over so it shows up again. And like I said, the mask could probably use a little bit more adjustment, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to go in and play with it again. I am adjusting the feathering a little bit more so that it blends a little bit better. So now I want to take the clip that I created for the audio and I bring it onto the stage. And now I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to say sync with emoji female. And now you can see that the lips are moving. Okay, and we're going to press play and see how it looks.
I hope you're enjoying this video and learning a whole lot about how to animate a still image. It's not that hard once you know how to do it.
So now we've got the character with the lips moving. And there you have it. Now, these same techniques can be used with things that are not characters, for instance. It could be used with animals. You could use it for landscape scenes where you could make grass move. For instance, if it was swaying in the wind, you could use the same technique we used for the dreadlocks. And same thing for the smoke. You could add some smoke or some mist to the scene to kind of bring it to life. Well, there you have it. That's how you can add some animation to any still character or any still scene. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out my station and it encourages me to keep making more of these videos for you guys.